I'm Richard. I'm the guy behind RV Castaways. And a question that I've been asked quite frequently over the past little while is, you gave up on the RV lifestyle. Like, do you miss it? And the short answer is, I sure do. However, things change in life. But I thought what I would do to just walk you through how we got into the RV lifestyle, few factors that caused us to exit the RV lifestyle, because I think those are all decision points that people make when they take this path. And so I'll give you some background, walk you through our journey, and share with you where we are right now. So sit back, relax, have a cup of coffee. This will take a little while, but I hope you find some of it, of value or of interest. And so here we go. So we'll start at the beginning because that's always a good place to start. Learning and I have been married now 44 years, I think. And so thankfully we seem to enjoy each other's company. Our marriage is in a good place. And this is a shot that we took just a little bit before the whole retirement planning thing started. And we've always been, I don't know, maybe uh, free-spirited in a way, but certainly, we were kind of thinking about what life might look like after, the family and the career and, all of that stuff. This was our coach. In fact, this was our coach in our favorite location. And boy, do we miss that view? Do we miss the friendships that we had developed? This is from Mayaca Motor Coach Resort in the Port Charlotte area, Florida. And this was Site 90. This was where we rolled in. And the very first time we rolled in there, we weren't intending to stay for very long, but we wound up spending several months there and then came back the following year. And our expectation was that we would be going back to this spot for, I don't know, I thought it would just keep going for years and years and years. And it did. But that was the coach that we had. It was 2016 Dutch Star, and loved the coach. It had had its strengths and weaknesses, which I'll get into in a little while. But that's kind of, to me, that was sort of the vision of what I thought our retirement would look like. So, you know, part of what was attracting us into the lifestyle was based on a couple of factors. One of them was this kind of sound of the waterfall, which I'll get into in a second. This was our home in Kingston, and we had a beautiful spot. We were on 7 acres or so out in the country. Really, really enjoyed being there. But Canada has very harsh winters, and on my bucket list in retirement was never to be cold again. So our view was, do we keep the house? Don't we keep the house? Can we embrace a different type of lifestyle? I had been working. You can see me there on the far side. I was an executive. I was a chief information officer for a large insurance company, and that was our senior team. So I was a corporate suit, you know, doing my thing. Had done it for 30 plus years, and decided at the age of 62 that I'd done enough. I mean, the stress was the stress was pretty high, and I'm not sure how much I was enjoying the career at that point in my life. I think I thought to myself, I've helped to put my kids through school. I've looked after the family. I've you know advanced about as far as I wanted to in terms of a career, and maybe now was the time to think about doing something different. And part of it was motivated by this book that I had read by Chris Crowley called Younger Next Year. If it's not a book that you've come across and you're in the sort of same age band that I am, I'm 66 right now, but at the time that I read this, I was 60. And the book had quite an impact on me. I thought initially it was going to be just a book about health, um, but it was a lot more than that. I'm just going to take this excerpt from the book, The Waterfall, because that was certainly something that I was experiencing, but I hadn't really put any kind of description against it. Just was thinking about it. And this is what he says, turning 60 can be awful bad if you don't watch out. And even if you do, think about it. Some people actually die in their 60s, not hit by cars or falling off their bikes, but they just die of semi-natural causes like heart failure, cancer. Death is out there somewhere, and it can make you moody. You keep hearing the waterfall in the distance, and you wonder all the time, what's that noise? Well, I was certainly thinking a lot more about the end of the road than the beginning of the road, and I think that's kind of a natural thing to happen as you get a bit older. You know that the years ahead of you are not as predictable, not as guaranteed, if you like, in terms of your health, in terms of factors that may be beyond your control if you get a serious illness, for example. So, the waterfall. What do I do? Which path do we take, with this last period of time that we have on the planet? What what should we be doing? Those were all questions kind of rattling in my head. This couple, the Wins, they they had adopted the RV lifestyle, and I was following them online. I was following their YouTube channel, and I was following their blog, and they were an influence in terms of looking at the RV lifestyle because at the time that I was debating what retirement might look like, we hadn't really thought about you know full timing in an RV. Um, but these folks, they made this statement that sort of kind of impacted me. If you are one of those people who are already there, living a life you choose and you're loving it, rejoice. If you're not one of those people, what are you waiting for? You know, if you can dream it, you can do it. All right. So that was floating in the back of my head. Follow your dreams. That's probably important, especially if you don't have much time left. Again, all fermenting inside. So this notion of looking at an RV lifestyle, which was by and large influenced by the Winds, I started, looking at it a lot more seriously. And there were blogs, there were vendor websites. There was the Hershey show that we went to several times. Our local dealer, where we were living, the Hitch House. We went and looked at products there. So all of a sudden the bug started, uh, infecting. As we got more and more into it. And so there were a lot of decisions that sort of come along with doing something like this. And there's money. This is not a cheap lifestyle, no matter what they tell you. Yeah, I guess it could be cheap if you wanted to be in a little camper trailer or maybe a less expensive sort of fifth wheel type of environment. But even then, I think that depending on your financial situation, it's not a cheap lifestyle. Don't let anybody tell you that it's cheap. It's not, at least not in a motor coach. You're going to be spending money, and we spent a lot of money. The the appeal of being on the road and just going where you wish was one that I hadn't really thought through as much as I thought I had. This is a lifestyle that's very easy, I think, to achieve in the United States because you can move with the weather. In Canada, especially if you're restricted in terms of where you can travel, because for Canadians, we can only go into the States for a maximum of 6 months and then we have to return to the country. Well, Canada is not equipped the same way for the kind of lifestyle that we were looking at, and I was a bit surprised to find that the sort of RV lifestyle in Canada, in a word, is rustic. It's not as refined as what we were enjoying when we did the travel in the States. we had to obviously come up to speed with all the different terminology that goes along with the lifestyle, the type of products that are in the market, and make a decision as to which one we wanted to go with. So we knew that we would go with the Class A. Didn't want to spend the money for a Prevost style bus conversion, but certainly a Class A motorhome. We thought we could find something that would fit the bill. And there's different types. I mean, I think the number of folks that go into Class A relative to the rest of the market is fairly small. And that was a bit of a surprise because when we finally got a coach, I thought to myself, well, they're built the same way that they build automobiles, right? And no, they're not built the same way at all. And people who buy them know full well that they come with a lot of issues. And that was certainly our experience. Anyway, so, if you're looking at this, you can sort of get a handle on what's going on, but there's been further consolidation in the industry since we looked at it. So really, there's just a handful of companies that provision product into the RV marketplace. And yeah, I mean, these are all data points. These are all things that I looked at as I was trying to figure out what we were going to do. Never really thought about buying used, but if I were to go through this exercise again, absolutely. I think the new marketplace, you pay a lot more. And yes, you have the benefit of being the first owner, but you also have the consequence of having to deal with all of the breaking in issues that are part of buying a coach. I'm not sure if it's similar for other types of RVs, but certainly for a coach. And those are, the pros and cons that you see there. This was the floor plan for our coach, which we quite enjoyed. I mean, it offered us, 2 washrooms, which was handy, a king-size bed, which was great. And, when it's opened up, it's like a small condo. It was very, I don't know, it's just a nice place. But those are all decisions that you're making. What kind of coach you're going to get, what kind of floor plan do you want, and obviously how much money. Back then, when we were looking at pricing, a lot of these coaches were, 300 to 400,000 US. They're up considerably now since then. Keeping in mind that this was in the 2015-ish time frame, so a lot has obviously changed. And but we went and looked at all of the different coaches and tried to figure out which one we might like. And we wound up obviously with a Dutch Star, a 4002. Now, although it said 330,000 US, actually we wound up spending closer to $500,000 on the coach in Canadian dollars, which is what I have to work with. Sad to say. Our youngest son had to accompany us through all of this sort of searching, and I think he was getting to the same point I did, which is, okay, got to get to a decision point on what we're gonna do here. So rustled up some money and bought a coach. Bought a coach from this place. One of the things that sort of surprised me is that the dealership network is nowhere near the same as in the auto industry. Like in the auto industry, if you have, like in our case, we have a Lincoln, for example. Where I am right now, I'm in Las Vegas as I'm doing this video, and we had a rear brake light come off of our car. So I just called the local Lincoln dealer, and I was in and out of there in a couple of hours with a new brake light. If, on the other hand, I had a Newmar coach and I called a Newmar dealer, chances of getting service are, pretty slim. And even if you do, you're not going to be treated quite the same. It's not the same type of experience. Many of them will have a hierarchy which says that if you bought from us, we give you service, and if you didn't, well, you're kind of bottom of the list unless you are in a breakdown type of situation. So you just got to be cognizant of that. Anyway, this was the dealer that we worked with to order our coach, and they're great people. And this was when we came to pick it up. Uh, so that was our coach, brand new and shiny, and boy, were we excited. This is the start of our lifestyle. So when you decide to do this full time, don't underestimate the challenge of the Big Purge. we we had accumulated a lot of stuff over 40 plus years of marriage, and we had to get rid of a ton of stuff. I mean, we did keep certain things in storage, and we gave a lot away, and we sold some stuff, and we threw some stuff away. I mean, that was, and in a way, I thought to myself, it's probably not a bad thing because, I mean, if we hadn't done this, and say something were to happen to Lorraine and myself, my kids would have had to have gone through it, and this at least freed them from having to go through that process. I read this book by Marie Kondo, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. It was certainly life-changing, that is for sure, and freeing in a way because a lot of the stuff was just there taking up space. I if I showed you what we actually had, and I think we had a very large home, and I had two garages in that house, an upper garage and a lower garage. The lower garage, which was, I don't know, 800 square feet, was jammed full of stuff. So there you go. So we purged, we put stuff in storage, and we made decisions in terms of what we would carry along with us. And I had to learn to let it all go. That the stuff you accumulate in life, you ain't taking with you anyway, so don't worry about it. Stuff that gives you joy and value, yes. Even all the mementos, what I wound up doing was digitizing it. So if I thought something was of interest, I just took a picture of it and put it into Evernote as a sort of digital repository of memories. Actually, the only time I looked at those mementos was when I was going through them, and I pushed them into Evernote. I'm not sure that I've gone back and looked at them again, but there you go. It's all depends on what you are worried about losing, I guess. And I thought maybe at some point I'll go back and remember stuff based on uh, items that we had collected or pieces of paper, mementos. So Canada, huh? Canada is sort of a tricky place. you know, my sense is that our federal government, likes to have a very active role in monitoring the lives of its citizens, and that was certainly proven through the pandemic. My goodness, we had lockdowns. We were prevented from traveling. We were prevented from traveling out of Canada and the United States for 2 years, and we were also in some cases, like when we had the coach, we couldn't take the coach to the only place in Canada that doesn't really get a winter. There's a couple places in British Columbia. We were in Ontario, so British Columbia is far west. During part of this pandemic, they wouldn't even accept reservation requests from out of province customers. We were, for all intents and purposes, we were locked down and not able to not able to travel for 2 years. In fact, I didn't know how long it was going to last. But at any rate, Canada, the um, I don't know, costs are higher there. Whether it's fuel, diesel fuel, whether it's taxes, it's just it's an expensive place. I mean, people like to say, well, but we have things like universal health care and accessible education, but it's it's a pricey place to live, I used to think it was a good place to live, but now in my older age, I'm not so sure. But I've spent my entire life basically in the country, so there you go. The healthcare stuff you do have to watch out. We uh, just yesterday I had to take Lorraine into emergency for an accident that she had. Now, she's fine, but we have travel insurance, thankfully. But you do have to be careful about healthcare in Ontario. Obviously we have a healthcare network there for us. It's broken, but if something serious happens, generally you can get treatment. when you're traveling, you have to be mindful that you may not have the same experience, and you have to make sure that you're covered, obviously. I've already whined about taxes, so I'm not going to whine about them anymore, except to say that when we were traveling, we had to be mindful that we didn't get double taxed, because if you stay too long in the United States or you don't provide some documentation to the IRS to have a closer connection to Canada thing, you could wind up paying taxes in both places, and that would not be a good thing. We wouldn't have anything left over. Um, but yeah, those are the two countries. I mean, very tightly linked, I think, Canada and the United States. My youngest son married a U.S. Citizen, so he's living and working in the United States now. We have family, on Lorraine's side that live in Florida. So there's the economic integration between the two countries, but there's a cultural and family integration that occurs between the two countries, and we quite enjoy being in the United States. And for the most part, where we live is fine as well. Politics aside, we've just been very fortunate to always meet great people and build good friendships on both sides of the border. So at that time, home was where we parked the coach. And as I mentioned, this is another shot of our coach at Mayaka. And I mean, how beautiful is that? Palm trees, sunshine, warmth. Nice coach. It was so sunny that we had to put, shades on the front of the coach to sort of cut down on the heat. And we had this spot, not nearly as nice, but this was our spot in Ontario. It was the only place in the whole country that we could find that had, a concrete pad and could accommodate, a coach of this size in an area that was quiet. So this part of the park in Ontario was only for people, like maximum two per site, and it was for adults. So it worked out well for the 6 months that we had to stay in Canada, and it was fine. The only difference for us was that there were a couple of weeks on the front end because the seasons here are short, right? So they run May to mid-October, so we had a few weeks to worry about on the front and a few weeks to worry about on the back in terms of, okay, where are we gonna put this coach while we wait to cross the border. So I'll just talk a little bit about the good, the bad, and the ugly, and then sort of wrap things up a little bit. So the good in this lifestyle, yeah, you're going to build friendships. I mean, that's what we noticed. We're traveling now differently because we sold our coach, and we sold our coach largely because of what was going on with government policy, and our view being that our governments are committed to getting to net zero, which I think has profound implications on coaches in particular, but your ability to travel at a cost level that is not prohibitive. So our view is at some point, this lifestyle is going to be very difficult to do from a financial perspective, but also government policy, which was unprecedented. When the Canada-U.S. border closed, I never, ever expected that would happen, but it did. And the question is, could it close again? Could government policy construe the climate challenges as a crisis, as an emergency, and impose similar measures to constrain the mobility rights and consumption patterns of citizens? And I think it's possible. So in that scenario planning, I kind of thought, yes, the great part about this is that when you travel, you meet people and you build friendships. Lorraine and I are traveling now, but it's almost a bit like going on vacation. You might meet some people, but for the most part, you don't. So you're kind of traveling as a couple, as opposed to when we were in our coach, we were always building terrific friendships with the people that we met in the different places that we went to, and we traveled widely with the coach across the U.S. and met many people that are still friends for us. And and if you're watching, man, I'm sorry I haven't Been in great touch with you guys, but I hope you appreciate the sort of challenges that we went through and the changes that we went through. But we're trying to make up for some lost time now. But yeah, the good part of this lifestyle are the people that you meet and the friendships that you build. And for us, we stayed at some amazing places. This is a shot from Harside, which is a luxury motor coach resort in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Beautiful place. But we stayed in some amazing spots across the United States, just incredible. And sadly, they don't exist in Canada, or at least maybe there's one now. I talked with one guy who's building one in out west in Canada, but other than that, we couldn't find any. They were all just kind of basic campgrounds, like the KOA, but sort of rough KOA, if I can put it that way. Um, we stayed here, Desert Shores, another beautiful resort property. This was in New Mexico. Just incredible, places and experiences, and I took them for granted. So if you do wind up doing this, don't take the time for granted because I just assumed that this was just the way life was going to continue to be. This was Mountain Falls, another beautiful spot. So you get the idea. This was in Alabama. I mean, we just had beautiful spots. Now some were rustic. We were driving through Texas, and this was just a dirt park, just an overnight, which we did. But that's the good side is the experiences that you get and the properties that you can go to. The bad is that stuff is going to go wrong. Like I was surprised at just how many things broke in the coach all the time. It didn't really matter. Something would go south, and we would find ourselves, getting serviced. In this case, we had all sorts of things go wrong with our coach. We were stranded at this dealer for a month and a half, which really impacted some of our travel plans. And of course, this stuff costs money, right? It's not free. The warranty that they give you on these things is kind of almost useless. It's like a 1 year and boom, you're on your own. And not only that, the manufacturer just spawns off on, just well, it's not our issue. If you have a problem with this, you've got to deal with that manufacturer, with that manufacturer. They're an assembler, right? And so anything that goes wrong in the coach, it's all, I don't know, someone else's problem. And generally the warranties are so weak that you're kind of on your own. So if you're in this lifestyle, you just know that something will go wrong, and you'll have to be mechanically inclined, electrically inclined, or have deep enough wallets to pay for stuff that goes south on you. I always found Wi-Fi to be a particularly annoying issue. I found a way to work around it. I got an AT&T commercial contract that allowed me to get, for the most part, high-speed LTE if I were in range of a tower. But internet access was always, I don't know, it was always a struggle. It's better now, I think, but back when we were traveling, it was always a struggle to get high-speed internet, which I always wanted. And then, of course, you're at the mercy of whatever the elements are doing, right? Weather does play a role, especially when you're driving these big rigs. You have to be somewhat mindful of weather patterns. And you got to make sure you budget, especially in the area called repair. Now, I will say that there's a point at which you have to ask yourself, what is it that you're trying to do with your life in retirement? And maybe you get to a point where you don't have to worry about keeping up with those who might have a bit more than you, and that your experiences probably matter more than the things that you accumulate. That was certainly a lesson for me, and that's where I'm going to sort of wind things down, and just talk a little bit about the gift of time that you get when you enter retirement. For us, we thought that being RV castaways would be our retirement. We were thinking probably for about 10 years or so. So it wound up to be much shorter period of time. And I had hobbies. I do a lot of audio engineering, and I still do. And so I'd set something up in the coach that allowed me to continue to do that. I rode in the coach So this was my bike and my training stuff. Played. I played a lot, so I really enjoyed that part of it. And I do a lot of photography, so which I also enjoy. And so this next chapter, of life is really about Lorraine and myself. I mean, we love our kids, obviously. We love our friends and our family, but this is a period of time that is primarily the two of us, and so we have to make the most of it while we have this time together. And that's, that freedom of just being able to be together. Doesn't matter whether it's in a coach, doesn't matter, where it might happen to be. It's, it's it's the two of us. It's where we started. It's where we end, and I hope I have a lot more time with Lorraine. Um, you know, we've got our kids grown up and our grandkids growing up. We've got mountains to climb, and yeah, this mountain, this Joshua Tree National Park. We were up some mountain there, which I thought was, you know, kind of isolated. Then I get a call. It was my birthday. I get a call from my daughter wishing me happy birthday on top of this mountain. So there's a cell tower somewhere. I can't see it in the photo, but it was there somewhere. So that chapter is a choice that you can make. And in Younger Next Year, he claims the rules are straightforward. Exercise, and you will grow younger. Care about other people, and you will grow happier. And build a life that you think means something, and you will grow richer. And I think there's a lot of wisdom in that excerpt from his book. So we had to say goodbye to the coach, and I have to tell you, I'm pretty sad about that. But so we pivot and we change our path. Right now we're doing a 3-month travel through the Southwest, and we're building life experiences, battling a health issue which has had some impact, but the positive is that I've lost a lot of weight. So I think I weigh less now than I did when I was a teenager. But you know, generally, you know, I'm able to get through a day, which is good. And that's pretty much all I have to say. So if you've stuck with me through it all, thanks. I know this is a bit long, uh, but I hope as you sort of think about your own life's journey, think about the things that are important to you, and that's it for now. Cheers.